Here's the checklist for Cessna 182A through D. This is a D model. We will begin with the exterior summary.
Come to the port side of the plane. We go to the oil dipstick located mid-engine. Rotate it 90 degrees to unlock it from the connection. We must have at least 8 quarts. We have just under 10 quarts of oil. We replace the dipstick back into its slot, seat it, lock it into its 90 degree lock position. Against the firewall to make sure the belt on the alternator is still tight. Located right there. And while we're in the engine compartment, we let down against the firewall and around for any loose wires or oil, which there is none. So we properly secure this by sliding the flap under and lock both latches. Next piece is to check for fuel quality and quantity. So we're going to check the bottom of the tanks and pull a portion of fuel out of each tank. We then look at the fuel to ensure that it is of the proper color, light blue. There's no water on the bottom of the fuel, and it's good to go. We will then return that fuel back into the wing, and we have a method of checking fuel using a gauge, but since I can reach it and my finger has fuel on it, I know that I have full fuel tanks. If my finger does not feel fuel, or if I'm going a long distance, I will utilize the calibrated dipstick to show me the amount of fuel in the plane. Disconnect the battery maintainer, close and secure the hatch. So now I turn the master switch on, pulling the red button, check both fuel gauges, the left and right port and starboard tanks are reading full, and I can hear my electric gauges spinning up, telling me that they are operating. Now turn the master off, ensure the key is not in the ignition. Check the fuel is on both tanks. Check to ensure that my trim is set properly, and engage my flaps to full so that I can do my inspection on the outside of the plane. The very first thing we do when we come to the airplane is just take an overall look at the airplane and see if there's anything that looks out of place, or like it's broken, or just doesn't look like it's working right. And the airplane appears to be in good shape. So we're going to turn the master on, look through this window, and when I push this stall indicator, it should beep at the plane. The stall indicator is working appropriately. Now turn the master off and continue down with my fuel, with my checklist. So we've checked the fuel quantity, the fuel quality. The caps and drains are in place, and the vent, one over here. So the caps are in place, and in the airstream, the vent is clear and has no debris in it. All right, and the drains are not dripping. We checked those earlier. We checked the oil and the belts. Okay, we're going to check the prop now. Checking the leading and trailing edge of the prop. For cracks or anything that's out of the way. Nose cone is secured. Air intake system, we're looking to see that birds or rats or something hasn't moved in and taken up residence in our plane, and checking our air filter. We lean over and check the exhaust system. The plane hasn't been flown, so I can touch it. The exhaust pipe is secure. We always start at the same place on the plane. We start right here at the landing gear. And we start and we look down and we check brake lines are intact. There's no dripping of hydraulic fluid on the ground. I have brake pad remaining. My disc is in good shape. Look at the outside of the wheel. My pin is in place. My tire is properly inflated and has adequate tread. The control surfaces. These are our flaps. I'm checking that the flaps are secured properly. I have free play in the actual actuator. So this is what engages the flaps. It has to be free. If it's bound up, it won't work. We move to the ailerons. In the ailerons, we now check to make sure all 4 nuts are in place. The hinge is in place. Move to the next hinge. Same thing, 4 nuts, hinge in place, but this one, we check to make sure the controls arm will actually move, and it does. Check the last 4 nuts, hinge, and this has an extra piece, which is the counterweights, so that you can move the aileron without excessive force. And those are all in place. Step to the back side of the wing. Check for any imperfections, any problems with the wing. Check the back side of my flaps, all good. Verifying again, my fuel cap is in line, my antennas are in place, cargo door shut. Now looking at the entire plane, is there anything out of place? Anything doesn't look right? Looking at my empennage. So the empennage consists of a rudder and an elevator. All right, this particular model plane does not have a trim pad. The entire elevator moves, so this whole part moves up and down. When you adjust the trim, you can see where it moves inside the space here. I'm looking to make sure there's nothing in this space. I then check in here, make sure nothing has taken up residence in here. I now check the nuts and the connection points, and then I check for free movement. Moves free and clear. I check the rudder, check my antennas, my light. Step to the other side where I've got a cutout for the rudder, and I check to ensure that my nuts are in place, secured properly. Same action. This elevator, free and clear, nothing's in the way. Continue around the plane. This is a Skylane made by Cessna 182 model. Typically the tail number doesn't match your plane. We got lucky. Now continue to check the plane. Back side of the flaps. Everything is in place. Looking across, everything is a big picture than the small picture. Big picture coming across the wings. Checking the outside edge of the wings. In place. Now coming back. And we're checking the exact same thing on this aileron as the other. 4 nuts, weights, and hinge. 4 nuts, hinge, control rod. 4 nuts, hinge, free movement. Moving to the flaps, free movement, and the rods are free and clear. Now I'm checking the leading surface of the wings, checking the wing support, struts. I've had pointed out to me stuff like this crack here. Checked with my mechanic. This is only aerodynamic. It is not structural. This whole piece could be missing and there'd be no problem with the plane. Moving on, checking to ensure these might be the most important part of the plane. That's your air conditioner. Door hinges in place, connected strut, static port free and clear, engine cowl tight, cowl flaps in place, shimmy dampener, which is a white thing with a little rod sticking out the back, is good. Front wheel is in place, checking the nut and the cotter pin. Moving around, 2 static ports clear, air conditioner for the pilot, door pins in place, pitot tube. This might be the very most important part of the entire check because that tells you airspeed. Airspeed is your friend. Checking again the struts, leading edge of the wing, cracks we've already talked about. If we were going to be up at night, I would turn and check all the lights, but we're not going to be flying at night, so it's not necessary. And then I complete my check where I end, because I came down the wing and then went all the way around the plane, and now I'm back to where I started. So the plane has passed all of its pre-flight inspection, and now we'll go to our checklist and ensure we didn't miss anything, and then we're just about ready to fly. Many pilots forget to remove the tow bar, and then landing becomes a real problem. And now we take one look at the plane, a holistic look, a look from 10,000 feet. What doesn't look right? What looks right? Anything that doesn't look right, you investigate. Got different lighting out here. The plane's been moved. Anything looks out of play. Hit anything. Go to the 152 trainer, Cessna 152, two-person plane. And this plane looks like it's ready to go. So, these connect just like that. Okay. Close the door and you will lock it in the forward position. If while we're flying we have engine problems and we have to put the plane down, I'll instruct you to open the door and then lock it in the open position so the door will not jam us into the plane. We'll be able to get out of the plane after getting on the ground. At this point, lock that forward. Thank you. And we've done a final walk around, so now we're doing the passenger brief. I'm pilot in command, no smoking, seatbelt remains on at all times. Stay clear of the controls unless I've given you permission to touch them. And we talked about the door. We'll next mark down the time. 91.86 is on the engine meter. And we'll mark down the actual time, which is 3:05 p.m. We now check the circuit breakers all the way across the plane. Every circuit breaker should be in and not tripped, and they're all good. Brake pedal test. Brakes are good and strong. Is your seat back locked in up position? It is. Avionics off. No autopilot. Carb heat off. Pushed in is off. Cowl flaps open. Beacon on. Get it right here. Mixture full rich. Prop high RPMs. Throttle slight. Prime. We'll do 2 shots of gas straight into the engine. 1, 2. These airplanes don't have a choke, so that's how you get the engine to start. My brakes are on. Put my key in the ignition. Okay. And I'm going to start this plane by turning the master on and yelling clear prop and making sure nobody's around the prop. Clear prop! So now I'm immediately checking over here that my oil pressure is coming up. I've got electric on everywhere. I'm going to turn now my avionics on so we can talk to each other.